After Oedipus, the king of Thebes, who unwittingly killed his own father and married his own mother, blinded himself with pins from his mother's dress, he cursed his two sons, Eteocles and Polynices, to divide the kingship of Thebes among themselves. In order to avoid all-out war, Eteocles and Polynices decided to rule Thebes in alternating years, switching out every year.
Of course, the desire for power and the desire to share are, by nature, feelings that fill up the human heart, each leaving no room for the other. In the same way, each of Oedipus's sons desired the whole throne, not a share of it. After his first year of rule, Oedicles refused to surrender the kingship, leaving Polynices to gather an army and commence a bloody civil war, which would end in the death of both brothers.
The deaths of both brothers left a power vacuum in Thebes, which was filled by Oedipus's uncle and brother-in-law Creon. After a whirlwind civil war and a new king crowned, Oedipus's daughters, Antigone and Ismene, grieve and struggle to comprehend the shattering changes to their lives. To talk in private, both sisters secretly meet outside of the walls of the royal palace.
Ah, this many. What destruction Zeus has brought into our lives. As if it were not enough that our brothers dishonored our family with their fighting. But have you heard about this new law Creon has decreed? Don't you get it?
What? No, I know. I mean, what about this new law? I haven't heard about it. To be honest, I haven't heard anything since the day our brothers died.
I thought so. That's why I wanted to meet you out here, so we could talk freely.
Okay, so what is it?
It's about our brothers. Creon isn't allowing Polynices to be buried. Eteocles is already buried, saluted, and sent off to the underworld with all honor and dignity. But Polynices still lies there for the birds to pick at, like we're not allowed to bury and mourn our own brother? Sorry.
Well, if Creon has issued this order, what can we do about it now?
You're going to help me bury Polynices. I can't carry his body by myself.
Oh, Antigone, we can't do that. Our family has suffered enough internal conflict. Now, you want to create more by going against the king?
Polynices is our brother. Just like Eteocles, I've already been separated from him by death. I'm not going to be separated from him further by some law. It's our sacred duty as his sisters.
This will never work. I will do only the things left for me to do. Pray for Polynices' soul. Forgive him, and do exactly what Creon commands.
Fine, I'm not going to beg for your help. You obey Creon. I'll obey the gods.
Ismene wanted to stop her sister as she turned to walk away, but she stayed silent. She wanted to tell her of all the fears she had about her sister's plan, but instead, like their brothers, the two sisters parted ways.
Not long after the sisters' secret meeting, Creon convened a meeting of the elders of Thebes in the meeting room of the palace to spread the word of his new decree.
Gentlemen, what the gods have thrown into turbulence, they will set right again. And so it will be with Thebes. I have called you together to reaffirm that I, as your ruler, will never be silent in the face of any danger to the state. It takes a steady hand to keep a ship on course in a storm, and for us, a strong hand comes in the form of strong laws. As Zeus is my witness, I hold our city by these strong laws. Therefore, I proclaim that Eteocles, who fought and died for the city, be given all honors and prestige. As for Polynices, who burned his country end to end and betrayed his own brother, his own blood, no one shall make for him a grave, nor shall any tear be shed for him. Let him be food for dogs and vultures. May his body be left uninterred for beasts to peck and mangle and make a mess, much like he treated his own city. So let it be written, let it be done.
The Theban leaders looked around at one another, some nodding, some shaken, all silent. Just then, a guard rushed into the meeting room, panting but not exhausted.
What is the meaning of this?
My king, I've come to deliver news.
Well, what news?
Well, you see, my liege, I know I seem out of breath, but it's not as urgent as all that. I didn't quite run here, just walk briskly. For the king to hear the news.
Arg, for the king to hear, what's the news?
Someone has, you should know, my lord. I had nothing to do with this matter. I watched over the body, of course, as you commanded, but nothing whatsoever to do with burying him.
If you don't tell me this news immediately, I'm going to bury you. Wait a minute. Burying him? Burying whom?
Sir, king, someone has buried, well, not really even buried, just, tossed a bit of dirt on top of Polynesius' body. Just some dry dust. Most of it blew away. Really not on top, but kind of at his body mainly.
Someone threw dust at Polynesius' body? Like, from a distance?
Yes, your royalty, from quite a distance, and then performed all the sacred burial rites before running away, unseen.
What? And you didn't even see who did it?
Well, no, my lordness. I mean, your lordness. Forgive me, my spot. See, I wasn't even the guard on duty, but the one who was on duty called us all in to look at the buried corpse, and we got to arguing with one another and blaming one another. Then we all felt ashamed, so we decided to draw straws on who should tell you. Your altitude.
Shut your mouth.
Aye, your honor.
Guard, leave this place at once and find the criminal who violated my policy. Otherwise, suffer the punishment yourself.
Sir.
With the guard having gone about his duty, Creon dismissed the assembly and retired to his bedchamber to rest his aching head. But not long after he lay down, several guards entered the palace, once again with the lawbreaker in tow.
King, we have captured the culprit.
Antigone? Guard, are you sure she is the one who buried Polynesius?
Without a doubt, your blessedness, it truly is as old as the men say. A dog returns to its vomit.
You're the vomit here.
Well, how did you catch her? Doing what exactly?
Why, she was burying the body, sir. The one you banned from burial.
Is this really true, Antigone?
Yes, I did it, and I'll do it again, given the chance.
But did you know about my decree?
Of course, everyone did.
Yet you still broke the law? You knowingly broke the law?
No, I obeyed the law. I obeyed the law of Zeus, the god of justice and the god of oaths. His laws are unwritten and immutable, and no law of yours can override them, even if it means my death. I will obey his commands, not the hymns of a temporary king who rules under the very authority of Zeus himself.
I cannot believe what I'm hearing.
Hi, you look at me like crazy, or maybe you're just a mindless man who recognizes a mindless woman.
No, by Hercules, I recognize the madness of your father, Oedipus, and you. Fate takes one turn, and you can't help but try to turn it in the opposite way. It's the tree that doesn't bend, that cracks, Antigone. And like your father, you will not escape your fate either. Guards, even though she's my closest kin here, she will not escape justice. She will not escape death. Nor will her sister Ismene. I accuse her too of this crime. Retrieve her immediately.
Come on, let's get this over with. I've accepted my fate.
What? You feel too ashamed to wait for your sister to arrive?
I feel no shame in honoring my own flesh and blood.
And Eteocles was your own flesh and blood as well. You'd honor one brother by dishonoring the other?
You short-sighted maniac. They were both my brothers.
Yes, one a soldier and the other a traitor, yet you honor them in the same way.
That is dead, Creon. A brother is a brother. I love them both in life, and I love them the same in death.
At that moment, the guards burst through the door. They escorted Ismene by the arm as she shook and cried, her face blotchy red and hot from her tears.
You too, huh? This whole time, I've had Zeus saboteurs in my own palace, in my own family. Did you know about this plot?
I did, I admit it.
No, you can't do this. She has nothing to do with the burial. She didn't even want to help me. You can't punish her for doing nothing.
It's okay, Antigone. Let me die with you so that I can, at least in this way, honor our brother.
Save yourself. My death is enough.
You're being stubborn about this too?
Look, I give up my life for the dead. You gave up the dead for your life. Let it be.
Ha! Listen to them. These two would argue even after they're dead.
You laugh, Creon, but what will your son Haemon say about your plans for Antigone? You think you'll have no problem with you killing his fiancée?
There are more fish in the sea, so to speak. My son will find another. We're done talking about marriage. Guards, tie these two up. Even beasts get flighty when death is near.
Quiet settled on the palace, a deadly quiet. Thoughts tore through Creon's mind so quickly he felt somewhat dizzy. It felt as if his hands were about to slip from the ship's tiller. He could not let that happen.
One after one, from Laius to Oedipus to Eteocles, the storm had gotten the better of the ship's captain, of Thebes' king. Creon wasn't going to let that happen again. Never again.
Especially not over some girl and her stubbornness. No, Creon could look at the sky and see the clouds breaking up. He could see daylight on the horizon. If he held his course, and if this, through his deluge of worries and troubled thoughts, he reminded himself again and again, never let go of the tiller.
Sir, Prince Haemon approaches from the palace gates.
Another to come and berate me, I suppose.
Well, he actually looks sad and heavy of heart, my lord.
Father, I need to speak with you.
I know why you're here, but have you come here angry to tell me of the folly of my decision? Or to tell me that no matter what our difficulties are, we'll still be friends?
You're my father and my guide through life. I'll not put a wedding ahead of my relationship with my own father.
As it should be. I tell you, son, a father sometimes has to do things his children don't like because he has to. Just like if you want to be a good friend to someone, sometimes you have to tell them things they won't like. But it's for their own good, you see? This situation is no different. You think I want to come between you and the woman you care for? No, of course not. But as an older man, hear me when I say having a bad woman in your house will make it icy. Don't cling to her, son. She's the only one who disobeyed my royal order, citywide. I mean, she wants to be riotous and unruly when this poor city has had nothing but death and chaos and civil war. We cannot have anarchy. Anarchy destroys homes and destroys cities, just like a storm can sink a ship. But a good captain saves the ship by weathering the storm, despite the pain and fear. Do you see what I'm saying to you, son?
I know you are wise, Father, and I can hear that your message comes from love. It is also wise. However, to hear the voices of the citizens, to hear what they say about this woman. For example, while you would cast her in prison, they would cast her in bronze, making a statue in honor of her bravery. They say she did not allow a corpse to rot and be left for dogs when you did. They say she honors her relatives when you imprison yours. Haven't you listened to their complaints, Father? Haven't you heard your own people? You once told me that the sign of a wise man was not that he had no more to learn, but that he knew he always had more to learn. If the captain of a ship tightens all the sails in a fierce wind, he'll roll the ship under. Give some slack, Father. It's the tree that bends that does not break.
You are quite well spoken, son. I'm proud to see that you have been listening all these years. Even the young can show wisdom now and again.
How old you are does not matter to wisdom, Father. Only actions matter.
So, should the actions of criminals be considered good then?
Ugh, not this again.
I mean, has she or has she not been caught breaking my law?
What you are calling crime has not been called so by the people. They're all shouting for her innocence.
So, it is the city that gives orders to the people, not the other. It is the city that gives order to the king, not the other way around.
No city belongs to one man, Father. You're beginning to sound like a spiteful youth, not a king.
Funny how the pot always winds up calling the kettle black. Who is really the spiteful youth here when you speak to your own father with such venom? Well, I can see you are taking her side.
Father, you can't see anything. You're blinded to all sense.
Is that so, you insolent child? I'll give you something to see. Guards, bring that criminal out here to be killed in front of her lover. Witness death, my son. Witness justice.
No, Father. She'll not die before my eyes, nor will yours ever see me again. Enjoy the approval of your own conscience, for it's all the approval you'll ever get.
With that, Prince Haemon turned on a heel and stormed from the palace. Again, the storm returned to Creon's mind, battering his thoughts and threatening to weaken his resolve. Why was everyone in his life against him? He simply played the part of king, and everyone despised him for it, including his own family. Would Haemon really never come back? Where would he even go? He's heir to the throne after all. Why would he abandon that kind of inheritance?
Lightning flashed in the king's mind, and gusts of anxiety howled so loudly that he could not hear himself think. His knuckles grew white from strain as he gripped the ship's tiller with desperate force. But, slowly, exhaustion began to melt his steadfastness.
Sir, what do you want to do with the prisoner?
Let the other one go, the one who had no hand in this mess. Antigone, however, take her down to a deserted part of the cliffside where no one really goes, and secure her in a cave underground. Maybe there she'll think twice about wanting death so much.
Oh gods, hear me. Why do you forsake me when I have done what is just right in your sight? I pray no one may suffer this pain, not even my enemies.
After the guards had disappeared over the hill with Antigone, King Creon sat on his throne and contemplated all that had happened. His thoughts were interrupted, though, by a consistent knocking noise.
This noise was soon contrasted against the shuffling noise in the intervals between the knocks.
Then, in the doorway of the palace, an old man appeared. His walking stick knocked against the floor as he progressed towards the throne, and his robes dragged heavily against the floor.
Oh, dear Tiresias. Well, what brings you to visit this palace, friend?
I'm here, Creon, as a guide. Funny the way that fate sends a blind man to see the way for the man with eyes.
Tiresias, some of the things you say give me the heebie-jeebies.
And some of the things you have said recently have had that effect on me. Beware, Creon, you walk upon the edge of a knife.
Well, what is it, old man? What do you know?
While I was reading the bird sign, the gods' own messengers to mankind, I heard a shrill, strange sound unlike any I've heard before. The birds pierced the air with their deafening cries, and soon began to pierce one another with their talons. They clashed and tore, and all the sky was in turmoil. Terrified of this evil portent, I went to check the burnt offerings I had made upon the altar. The coals had been choked, and the fats and juices which are God's most cherished morsels were flowing and falling into the ash. The fire smoldered, died. The city suffers, Creon, and it falls upon your head. The gods no longer accept our sacrifices. This cannot continue. You must give up your pride. When a man walks down the wrong path, it does not profit him to continue on the same path. You must turn back, and as soon as he does, by the God's grace, the wrong path is immediately transformed into the right one, because he has corrected his way.
Well, every single person in my city, in my life, has turned against me. You know that a man who embellishes the words of the gods will be punished, the same as a man who ignores them.
Creon, your obstinacy is your ruin. There is wisdom in the old saying that the tree which bends will not so easily be broken by the wind.
Aha! You are not the first person I have heard these words from, old man. My son Haemon must have visited before you came here to the palace, no doubt complaining of me.
Fool! You are the one who spoke these words. You taught them to your son. Now your hubris will not let you hear or hear your own teaching. The Furies and other gods of the underworld await you, Creon. They circle like carrion fowl, ready to devour your soul. I must leave now. The stink of death surrounds this place.
No, Tiresias, come back here. Tell me more. What do the gods want?
Before Creon could finish speaking, the tottering old man had disappeared from sight. He slumped back into his throne, pressing his fingertips against the pressure pounding against his temples.
This is too much. The tiller has been broken. The storm continues to rage. I am powerless against it. I must undo what has been done.
Suddenly, the king leapt to his feet and swiftly ran to the gates of the palace.
Guards, slaves, come with me and bring shovels. We have to bury Polynices immediately.
The king and his attendants left the palace grounds, shovels in hand, and soon disappeared into the horizon. It wasn't until some time later that Eurydice, Creon's wife, and the queen of Thebes would see a lone figure making his way towards the palace.
You there. Where is my husband, the king? I was told he was hurrying to the battlefield where Polynices' body lies rotting. Is he still there? What has happened?
My queen, there is no way to soften the truth. It is as hard as iron. Yet it possesses a ring that is undeniable and heard. I followed your husband, Creon, to the hill where Polynices' body is laid, ravaged by dogs. We prayed and cleaned, blessed and buried, but once we finished our ceremony, a faint cry was heard coming from the hills nearby. As we followed the sound, we realized this was a cave in which the guards had imprisoned Antigone by the king's command.
Imprisoned during the cave? What on earth possessed him to do such a thing? The poor girl is so young without a husband or any children. She's hardly begun to live life.
In fact, she has finished living this life, my queen. When the king and I entered, we found that Antigone had hanged herself with a bolt of cloth from her own dress. Haemon was there as well.
The queen's eyes widened.
He was trying to get Antigone down, holding her by the waist, crying for his bride-to-be, when we found them. Creon tried to calm him and call him to come outside the cave, but Haemon at once turned on the king. With the blade in his hand, he stabbed at Creon, but just missed, and I stepped in front of the king to protect them. This drove Haemon mad, and I mean his eyes were wild. He turned the blade on himself, my lady, right in front of us.
At that moment, Creon came into the room, holding the pale, limp body of Haemon in his arms. The queen staggered back slightly, her right hand covering her mouth in shock. She began to shake as her attendants led her by the elbow from the room.
What have I done? Why are the gods so cruel? My son, young and dead, and all because of my foolishness.
Creon draped his son's dead body across the armrest of the royal throne and looked at him for a few silent moments. There, the royal house of Cadmus and Laius and Oedipus and Creon came to an end. No marriage would be celebrated. No grandchildren would fill the palace with their shouts and their cries.
King?
Startled, the king raised his eyes and found the source of the voice.
Yes? What? Have you no decency for a man mourning his lost son?
Your wife is dead. She only just killed herself in her bedchamber.
Creon shut his eyes as hard as could.
She had a knife, sir. Not big, but enough.
Creon had always known that he needed to be strong to be king. He never intended to rule with an iron hand. But how else to keep control of the ship? A ruler who let the rudder and the tiller get away from him, get out of hand? Well, he was no ruler, but that iron hand became an iron heart. And when all else was crumbling around him, when his entire ship was coming apart board by board, Creon, the captain and king, stood stalwart and still, even